this is a class war, nothing more, as we like to say. Our podcast is about transforming politics into service. And this particular issue is no different. And when you think about the very strong Jewish enclaves, particularly in New York City, Upper East Side, North Shore, Long Island, Westchester County, Southern Westchester County, Rockland County, the majority of these places are very affluent. And when you feel like you're kind of in this upper class bubble where the routines are very consistent, the social circles are very tight, you don't get too many outside voices that are allowed in to really suggest heresy in their mind.
We were very insulated down here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, what year did you graduate high school?
You're asking me all the good secrets that I like to keep for myself, Jen.
Because I know you're a lot younger than me, so I'm just trying to have like a frame of reference of what Miami Beach was like. Like,
just say if you're Gen X or millennial.
Are you Gen X or millennial?
I'm a Gen X.
You are not. You've got to be on the tail end of Gen X. You're only a few years older than you.
But, you know, Miami Beach was very, very Zionist growing up. You know, a lot of New Yorkers would be coming down for Passover. It was a big scene. You know, there were a lot of kosher restaurants. Of course, I went to Hebrew day school. Like, for, you know, particularly for me growing up, my synagogue, Beth Israel in Miami Beach, was like the center of the universe. I didn't realize it. Every Saturday I go there, see my friends, everything. Like, it was a big part of my life. It was like, you know, Israel, it was just, it was like a non-negotiate. Like, it wasn't something you even talked, like, it was just like pure allegiance, and you didn't know. Like Jen was saying earlier, the Palestinians were Arabs that all wanted to kill us. They were dirty animals. And like, it was weird how that was like ingrained in you. And that fear was used to, like, you know, create this allegiance to this country that's been doing like these horrible things, and worse, lying and manipulating Jewish people about it.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I feel exactly the same. Like, how dare you guys be mad at me? Like, where do you get up? Like, I actually am at the point where, to me, anybody that is still like with Israel is not anybody that I ever want to have in my life, ever. And I mean, like, on a personal level, not like I would talk to or interview or whatever. I'm just personally speaking, like, that is nobody that can be in my life. And we are so far past the grace period, which for me was only like 2 weeks post October 7th, where if you didn't see the writing on the wall with this and start doing your research, that starts to be on you.
You know, I think back to 2015 in particular. I had always been involved in politics since I was young. It was just something that I had always taken an interest in, and I studied it in school and so forth. And it wasn't until Bernie came into the scene that I actually sort of felt like there was something there. There was something different, comparatively speaking, to a lot of the type of politics that we've experienced over the years, which is always adjacent to the interests of corporate special interests. That's what runs our country. But now more than ever, because the whole Bernie phenomenon became this, we must take it to the next level in terms of our corporatization, because the system's failing and Israel is at the center of it. And all the while, I'm looking at where we are now and how things have just gotten progressively worse. But the one thing that I think is going to stick in this particular election cycle and beyond, there is no coming back from this.
No.
This is a mark of time that will never be forgotten. And the people in these communities better recognize that eventually the arrow is going to be pointed in their direction, and they're never going to be able to walk in public ever again, because this is on a whole other level. And there's also going to be a hell of a lot of documentation of the people that kept their mouths shut, which is bad enough. And then there are people who are still out there spewing the bullshit.
Well, and media people that have been promoting it. They're so like responsible.
Yeah, we're going to get to Bill Maher a little later in the evening, but that's just an example of. I mean, on the one hand, with Maher, it's different because for him, it's strictly career based. It's all about what's.
He's an Islamophobe, and he's just
he's always been
douchebag.
That's a whole other thing. But for so many people, it's like it's breaking down the walls of these protected enclaves that they think really exist. And I've seen it firsthand. I don't know how they're going to be able to do it going forward. My brother's a Zionist, and he married into one of those families in Boston where every person in the family goes to Brandeis, you know, the whole 9 yards. And the elitism just oozes out of his pores, out of all of them.
It's not good.
And the problem, more than anything else, and I think this is where the conversation kind of comes full circle. My brother's wife's grandmother is a Holocaust survivor. And so they're going to try to hang on to this as long as humanly possible for the purpose of enacting their political and economic agenda. Because on the one hand, if Kamala Harris wins, the first gentleman of the United States is as ardent a Zionist as there could possibly be in Doug Emhoff. And on the other side, if Trump gets in again, there is no bigger Zionist than Jared Kushner. So
it's not good.
You're walking into this.
Yeah, there's
heads you win, heads I win, tails you lose type situation. And we obviously want to give as much credence to anyone on the outside, especially somebody like Jill Stein, who is willing to say what needs to be said in this moment right now. But I'm wondering, how is it going to change? And is it changing? Like you said, you've been on the circuit.
Well, where do you perform? Like, where do you go? Like, what's your circuit?
I mean, I perform throughout the city, wherever this, week. I've been at the Comedy Village and Eastville Comedy Club and Drum NYC. So I'm not picky, really. I love performing. I love getting on stage. Some crowds are more receptive to hearing stuff about Palestine. A lot of crowds aren't. I have had people, Zionists get up on the street. I used to perform at a club, stand up in New York a lot. A lot of Zionists there, Zionist club owners. We've had some disagreements with them, and people getting aggressive on the shows. It's being really hard for people to hear these things, but people need to hear these things more than ever. Like, they are affecting us. People are so disillusioned that they are, wanting to support Jill Stein, who, a lot of people know doesn't really have a chance of winning the presidency, but they're so disillusioned with the American democracy system and there's two parties that, they want to stand for and try something else. Particularly, I think the whole system's corrupt, and it doesn't matter if there's two parties or there's three parties. It's still going to, be bad for the people. While, the Congress profits and the industrial military complex profits, and they're all invested in it. So it's really sad. There's not going to be change. It doesn't matter who becomes the president. People of Palestine are still going to be suffering for real. And people want to say, oh, well, there's more than just one issue, but it's really such a grander issue of, where our money goes as taxpayers, how different influence our government and what they're doing, how, there are people right now that are suffering from like hurricanes that are getting pennies while we're giving billions of dollars to another country to enact a genocide. And then so many people in America are sponsoring GoFundMes, and they're paying for both sides of this. And their voices are not being really heard or spread anymore, because we're more than a year into this and it's just getting worse. It's like Palestinian suffering is just getting worse. It's crazy to think. It's like, how does Israel manage to make things worse for the Palestinians after over 76 years? So, it's hard to sometimes have a sense of humor. It's hard for people who are really angry. People are so upset, and it's not helping Israel. It's certainly not helping the Jewish people. It's not helping the world. And unfortunately, this election is just showing more that American politicians don't represent the people and don't care about the well-being of the people, not only financially, but also just mentally, how they're letting us stand by and watch this happen.
It's sick. It's sick. I said this because, like, my husband doesn't particularly follow. I mean, he's more into comic books than anything. And my people in my life don't generally want to follow it. And they know what's going on because I tell them. And I'm like, I will not be gaslit into thinking that this is normal. This is not normal. We should not be this is off the wall. And I like that you mentioned hurricanes. I was going to ask you, how would you like to participate in an online comedy fundraiser for Asheville? What's the name of the organization? It's called Beloved Asheville is the name of the organization. But they're doing all sorts of outreach to the people that are flooded and still without stuff there.
Yeah, sounds great. Definitely keep me posted about that.
Okay.
Definitely, want to help all people in need. There are so many people suffering, throughout the world. The Palestinian cause did become important to me as a Jewish person watching, Israel commit the crimes and kind of using Judaism as this religious shield, and also being upset and hurt of not only being lied to my whole life, but watching the people I care about being lied to, and many still, suffering from the propaganda that we've seen so much of post October 7th, which, has been, hurt only Israel because it's opened everybody's eyes to like how much they've been misled, and like knowing that Hasbro is a thing.
Yes. I think it's almost like I look at them like they're just imploding. It's like a kamikaze nation. They're going down with the ship because this is not tenable. I mean, and the only reason, honestly, if I thought raising money for Palestine would help Palestinians, I would be doing that regularly. Like if that was what was needed to help them, but that is not what is needed to help them. And so hence why I'm doing a fundraiser to help people that actually are getting on the ground help. But yeah, it's
an example of collapsing empire. That's essentially where we are at this point. And that's why so often people were so vocal about the picking and choosing that Trump did when he was president, which he obviously did, but the Democrats are doing it as well. And part of the reason why you have this $750 benefit that's being thrown at people, in particular,
$750,
Northwest Georgia and Western North Carolina. And why are they doing it there in particular? Because that's Trump country. And that's not a mistake.
They don't care. They can't get those votes anyway.
Yeah. And so for them, it's like, who cares? Just like in the past with Trump's like, listen, if they're not voting for me, I'm totally not supporting them so they can swim up a river on their own. It's like, that's how they treat it. This is, and again, it's the mark. What was that?
The Democrats, they messed up, they made it just about beating Trump. They made it, trying to convince everybody that they're better than Trump. And like, that's not enough anymore. Like that, you can't just get by on that. And it's like, the Democrats, do need to be held accountable. Like they can't just think, oh, we're going to get away with doing whatever evils we want, being as corrupt as we want, because, oh, there's somebody worse than us. No, they're going to have to do better, and they're going to have to start doing better. And they needed to already start doing that. And, Palestine would have been a good way to start. And if they still want to support weapons to the Iron Dome, or they still want to say they're Zionists, that's fine. They need to come down on what's happening on the West Bank. They need to end the atrocities that are happening in Gaza. They need to like intervene in some way that is positively changing the oppression that is constantly happening to the Palestinian people, and they refuse to do that.